This is Brittney Pino, and she is a top producing agent in Baton Rouge. She's with a group that I'm in with my success coach that basically he coaches some of the top teams, CEOs, and brokerage around the country. We thought we'd have, she's got a really interesting story, so we will. Remember, you can't really see everybody because they're all spread out, Brittney, but you got this table here. So,
Awesome.
Yeah, your story.
Hello, everyone, and good morning. Thank you so much for having me. I am located here in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, so not far from you guys. I am going on, 18 years in the business. I started out when I was just 20 years old, and I knew that this field was going to be exactly everything that I ever wanted with all the different hats that we get to wear in doing real estate. So I sold as kind of my own agent, independent agent for the first several years. In 2009, I hired my first full-time assistant, and the very next year in 2010, my business was up 30%. And then at that point, I knew that I really, really needed some more help. And so, I kind of just did what everybody else did. It was popular to have like a team or have a buyer's agent. So I did what everybody else did, and I just hired a buyer's agent. That worked really well for a while. In the beginning, I had a ton of business to provide to her. And so for the first several years, I really just provided everything that she was able to close. And then in 2016, I went through a really horrific, unexpected divorce. I still am. I'm a mom of two. So at the time, my littles were quite young. They were 3 and 1. And this was definitely life-changing for me. So as I was navigating that, I knew that I kind of probably needed to step back a little bit from production. I was still producing, but I had a lot on my plate at the time. So I was just committed to continuing the growth and the income for my family. So I built a real estate team. I started to hire in more agents. And so I hired in another 7 or 8 agents. And so by 2018, we climbed the rankings. We were #1 RE/MAX team in the state of Louisiana, and we were rocking and rolling. However, I kind of took a hard look at everything and realized that I didn't feel, now here's what I'll say. There's really not like a right or wrong way to scale your business, right? I network with some of the most amazing broker owners, team leaders across the US and Canada, and I would say that every single one of them essentially has a different model, if you will. So there's really not a right or wrong way, but for me, I felt that I may have given too much kind of in the beginning, and it didn't seem like it was going to be sustainable. What I've learned in coaching with one of the top recruiters in the country is that if you can be an independent agent and scale your business and you have a lot of help around you, or if you're going to then convert to a team, then you really are going to be a recruiter, or it won't work. And so what I had there is, unbeknownst to me, I didn't know what I had wouldn't work for the long haul, right? So I had a group of, super close friends, essentially. We became friends over the time, and we were selling, but then eventually people do well enough and they want to break out on their own, which is fair. But I made the mistake to think that it was going to sustain for the long haul. So in 2018, I decided that the way I built it wasn't right, so I was going to eliminate some folks. So I took it apart, and then of course when I did, it really just capsized the whole thing. So here I am, it's 2018, I've got 2 littles, and I've just taken my business apart. I've got my coach helping walk me through it. And I would say that the majority of my income was from the team at that time. I was producing, but really, really the majority of my income was coming from the team. So as that fell apart, I had to dust myself off and completely rebrand and rebuild my business. I honestly didn't know what was going to happen the following year, which would be 2019. So what I'm going to take you through today is the 5 levers to really scale your business. I am pacing to earn over 7 figures GCI this year. We were right at it, just barely missed the mark last year. In 2019, my first year kind of back as a solo agent, if you will, with admin, we ranked number 5 in the state of Louisiana, which I was super happy with. So I will tell you essentially what I did to completely revamp. It was almost like starting over at that time. It wasn't easy. It was definitely challenging, and it took a lot of grit and determination. It takes being coachable. And so I did that, and I want to share that with you guys, because my hope is that after this call, maybe I'll plant a seed or provide some piece of information that will help you, some way you can implement this into your business and help you scale to the next level. I don't know. Go ahead.
I want to interject one thing here. So just to put in perspective, I think it was last year you did 30 million in transactions in Baton Rouge, where the average price point was what, 225?
250s, yep.
250. So that would be like, I don't know, 45 million here. So I just want, that's it. It's a lot of, it's a big deal to reach out and go to that level.
That's right. And this year we are up 30% over last year's numbers. So we already have a little over, I say we, because I totally give my credit to team as well. I have admin who are unlicensed who really helped me with that, and I'll go into that in a minute. But we are over 10 million already year to date. So my hope would be to end up at 45 plus this year. Okay. So one of the big things that I want to tell you, one of the big levers that I used when I had to rebrand and rebuild my business was video. You guys are probably hearing it over and over and over, maybe for years. Maybe you are already doing it. I don't know at what level, but 80% of the content people consume online is video. Still pictures are great, all that, you know, the picture at the closing, but when you take it to video format and you become an educator, a leader in your market, you're showing people evidence of success, they begin to watch you and follow you. And I can tell you that you do not need some high production equipment to do video. What really sells is the reality TV, right? Do you want to see, you imagine, do you want to watch a car commercial, you know, where they've got all this production and they've got all these graphics and everything, and the person's there and they're not really being themselves, versus somebody that you maybe know and respect, and they're showing you like a selfie mode behind the scenes of like what's happening. That's much more intriguing. And so I would just say, don't delay or feel like, you know, getting ready to get ready. Just go ahead and do it. You know, you don't have to look like a movie star. You put your camera on, put it on selfie mode and video. And so the biggest thing I'll tell you is content. One of the main things that I came out with, I didn't come up with it, was directed by my coach, is the market updates. People want to know what's going on. That really does apply to just about anyone, whether they're in the process of buying or selling or kind of in that mode or not. It still would be applicable for anyone who essentially owns real estate to know what's going on in the market, maybe what the average sale price is, average days on market, just what's happening, what the interest rates are doing. Likely, if you're anything like me, when you're out and about, you're at a soccer game or you're in the grocery store or you run into somebody, you know, at dinner, one of the questions, if they know that you sell real estate, is how is the real estate market? So what you're doing is a message to market match, and you're answering that question with information that people want to know. So going into video, I will give you a couple of tips on video, because it's really important how you do your video. You don't want to start off like, happy Tuesday, everybody. You literally have seconds to make an impression, to grab and hook your viewer so that your message is received. So typically we'll start a video with a hook. So something like a question, like, how is the real estate market so far this year in 2021? People understand now what your video is going to be about. Then you introduce yourself and then go into your content immediately. Especially if you're doing a Facebook Live, Those things are typically rewatched. So if you start the Facebook Live, don't just stand there waiting for people to jump on or saying, hi, Susie. Oh, nice to see you. You know, for the first 2 or 3 minutes, you've lost your viewers. So you want to just go right into your message. Some other video tips would be perhaps interviewing some local businesses. I've done some that were successful where I interviewed some of my vendors. I have a guy that replaces the foggy windows on the property. So I was like, hey, James, when are you going to do another one? And then I met him out at the property and then showed him how that works, how easy it is to swap out these foggy windows. And so anybody who essentially owns real estate, that would be something that would be interesting. Literally a year later, I have people messaging like, who was the guy that does the foggy windows? You did a video on that a year ago. I mean, people remember this stuff and they come back to it. So once you start to provide value, a content that will apply to people, it's not always just like today's open house, you know, come by and see me at 2:30. Like that's great and everything. It's evidence of success that you're out there in the real estate industry doing what you do, but maybe to provide some value and content, the best cleaning products, meeting with vendors, what's the latest trends in new construction and things like that, information that people want to know. So I highly recommend video. And then also not to just do the video, but posting that across all of your social platforms. You're going to put that on Facebook, you're going to put it on Instagram, you can put it on YouTube, and then also send maybe an email to your database. Hopefully you guys have one of those. So then you can email it to your database. You take the copy. It's very important that you write out pretty much what you say as well. So you can put your hook and all the content of information that you're going to provide. You put that in an email and send it to your clients. If you do that even just once a week or commit to a minimum of 2 times a month, it takes a little while to get the momentum, but you will definitely see. I have so many people, like cold people I don't even know. Like, we see your videos all the time. We see how that you market. We want you to come list our house. This is just additional business because, you know, it used to be years ago where we had to have like a huge box brand to like reach the consumer. What was there, like the phone duty? I don't know if any of you guys know what that is. You may or may not even have that, but really we had to have like a big box brand. So if somebody wants to sell their house, they didn't know how to get directly to the agent per se. There wasn't this social media. We have a direct contact now to the consumer. So if you put yourself out there and you show them what you know and how you do your business and evidence of success, then you are creating a what they call parasocial relationship. So it's where people have seen you so much on video that they feel like they know you. It lowers the sales skepticism. It builds that know you, like you, trust you, and they are more inclined to do business with you. Okay, so I'll leave you with that piece. The number 2 is leveraging with people. I could not do what I do without my admin. So the way that my team is structured, I took down all of like the real estate agents that I had as like a team with buyer's agents, and I began then to hire in unlicensed salaried assistants, administrative team. They do transaction processing. They do literally managing my calendar, helping me manage database. Every single thing, essentially at this point, besides for me meeting with buyers and sellers, my admin team helps handle. They're coordinating closings and coordinating inspections, and we have a runner and a full-time videographer. And so all of these people essentially are helping me serve the client in some capacity. It is a game changer. The first assistant, I don't know if you remember what I said when I said in 2009 I was super busy and I hired my first assistant. The very next year my business was up 30%. If you are anywhere near, I would say about $7 million in production, when you consistently get close to 7 million, I guarantee you, if you hire a full-time assistant, like kind of like your personal assistant, I love that the company I know provides that additional support, which is great. But the day you're out and you're showing property and you have to just pick up the phone and you have your assistant handling whatever you need while you're out, or emails are coming in, my assistant is in my email. If you email me, they all see it. If you text me, they see it. Every single thing, they know what's happening in my business so that they're able to quickly respond. So that if I'm out, if I'm with a client, Speed to action is key, and also accessibility and communication. That's like the number one complaint of consumers, is it not? And so it's really important for us to make sure that we have that immediate speed to action with our clients. So with the administrative team that I've built, they all help me serve the client in some way, shape, or form in some capacity. I highly recommend that if you guys are getting to a point where you're feeling like you can kind of do all that you can do in the business, it's taking away from maybe some of your free time, an assistant may be something that you want to look at this point. It's just that 80-20, 80% of what we do gives us only about 20% of the results that we're looking for. So there's a lot of things that end up on our plates that are not necessarily the money generating things that we need to be focused on. I would encourage you that if you start to look at it, just during the day, figure out what things that you're doing that you feel like, someone else could be doing this. I don't have to touch this. I don't have to be the one to do it. And then those things you can kind of start creating a list of what you would maybe then have an assistant doing for you, so that you're able then to focus on the 20% that produces the 80% of results, which is getting in front of your buyers and your sellers. You're negotiating contracts, showing property, going on listing appointments. And then you're not, imagine if you're going to the doctor's office and the doctor there is literally just doing it all. He's like answering the phone and filing the papers and taking the calls and then walking you back and charting. And then he's meeting with you to diagnose. Like, there's only so much we can do as one person. And so when you really are ready to leverage and scale your business, having that person there for you is going to help you really take it to the next level. And then as you get busier, you can add in another piece. I would say don't hesitate too, once you and your assistant are kind of maxed out, is to hire even a second assistant. It gives them company and they're able to kind of bounce things off of each other, and they don't experience burnout, because they will, the more that we put on their plate. The number 3 biggest lever to scale your business is, guess what? It is not a magic button. It's not anything new. It's nothing that you haven't heard before. It's your database. To nurture your database. That is the number 1 most important thing in your entire business, is your database, the people, the relationships. And when I say nurture your database, I mean, it's like you have this pond. Imagine all of the fish in the pond would be your clients. You don't want to just leave it there to just rot away, right? You have to feed it in oxygen and, making sure that whatever you put into it is what you're going to get out of it. So if you are doing anniversary phone calls or sending a handwritten note like, hey, you've been in your house. I'm getting some feedback. Anniversary cards, bomb, text videos, sending emails consistently, lunches, break breads, pop-bys, handwritten notes, Facebook messages, a text, a phone call, any of these things, just to reach out. Hi, how are you? Talk about family. I'm sure you guys heard of FORD, family, occupation, recreation, dreams. Just having a conversation to cultivate, nurture these relationships. Because what happens is these people are going to work with who they know, they like, and they trust. The first person that pops into their mind when they think of real estate is who they will use. And you'll be surprised. You lose touch, like you had such a great relationship with these people. You did a great job in closing them. And 2 years later, all of a sudden you see what? Their social media, they're like, we just bought a house. And you're like, what the hell? Well, if you didn't talk to them, that's your fault. So you need to make sure that you are staying in touch with your people, because even if they are not looking to buy or sell, that phone call, that touch may then bring you again top of mind. And so they may be at work the next day and somebody there would say, we're planning on selling our house. You know what? I just talked to him yesterday. John Crow, right? He just called me and he did a great job. He did a great job in my transaction 2 years ago. And so now, you should call him. And so I think those things are going to help just get that extra piece. So you're going to be getting business then from, your video and your social campaigns. Then you're getting it back from your database. I would say at least 70% of your business should be coming from repeat and referral if you're doing an exceptional job. Okay, so that when you have these clients, you want to make sure your communication is on point. You want to make sure that you are going above and beyond, doing an exceptional job, providing them resources, making sure that you're being proactive. If you've been in this business for any amount of time, likely you will know what the client is going to ask you before they ask you, right? When you have a listing and then there's a showing, within about, I don't know, 5 or 6 hours after the showing, if you haven't set expectations, what is your seller going to ask you? Within 5 or 6 hours after a showing, your seller is going to call and ask you for the feedback. So if you get ahead of these things, if you know they're going to ask you for feedback and you beat them to it, then you start to set a precedence. It's the same thing with your buyers, with your sellers. Like, hey, what is it? So your seller gets an accepted contract. What's the first thing they're going to ask you? What's next? So what we've done is we create a process that is proactive so that we're going to let them know, like, hey, by the way, this is the next step, or this is what showing feedback is, managing expectations, so that once you have that client, it's just to do a really damn good job to make sure that you're going above and beyond, exceeding their expectations, keeping them completely at ease, that you have the complete transaction under control, and they close and felt like that was just such a breeze. And so then they're likely then to send you a referral or do business with you again, as long as you keep in touch with them. The other last piece I'll tell you about the database thing is make sure you're asking for Google reviews. I don't know if you guys have gone over that or not. Google reviews is where it's at. I have got a ton of business, okay, because the Google reviews will rank you higher. So when somebody types in, an agent in the area, I have gotten somebody like, hey, we found you on Google. We see your reviews. You've got so many. This is a great way. It's free. So you can just send your client the link to the Google review and have them do it there. I wouldn't recommend doing it like on your Facebook or on a Zillow or something like that. Those third-party platforms are great, but the Google is something I am seeing a tremendous amount of business from that. I know Justin Haber out of Canada, he told me about this a couple of years ago, and it has just been, another huge piece for me in terms of income of new business. The fourth greatest lever is not something that you may expect for me to say, I guess, in all of this. In order for us to perform at our very highest level, I think that it's really important for us to be in top-notch condition. So I think the health and wellness piece is something that people often forget. We tend to focus solely on certain areas of our life, like if you have like your life pie, and there's all the, the pieces of the pie. I think health and wellness sometimes we forget about. I can tell you that I started like a 60-day challenge in early December. I got my diet super clean. I started going to the gym 4 days a week and drinking like 64 ounces of water. I cut out alcohol, and let me just testify that I have more energy. I have more clarity. I have not felt like these slumps or like tired, little episodes during the day. I can run circles around my old self, and I'm able to perform so much better. I'm a better mom to my girls. I'm a better agent to my clients. I know that I'm a better leader to my team. And I can tell you for sure that I am doing more and I'm doing it better than I was before I started to focus on health and wellness. You imagine, like, you can't win a NASCAR race in a beat up Pinto. What's happening on the inside of us is going to show up on the outside. That spills over into all of the other areas of our life. So the health and wellness piece, I think for high level performance, if you really want to be your best, I think is something definitely to consider and to look at. And then number 5 is really living your life. It took me many years to get this. It's so important, I think, for us to stop sometimes and take these breaks, these trips, a small vacation. It doesn't have to be a lot of money, but here's the things that I've noticed when I plan a trip. Change your calendar, change your life, okay? Plug it in, figure out, okay, hey, on May 7th, I'm going to do something. I don't know what it is yet, but I'm blocking that off. What will happen is leading up to that day, you guys are going to start tying up all these loose ends. It kind of gives you that hard deadline to where you are motivated then to make all those calls and to do it. Some of you may be moms here. I remember when, I feel like it's kind of the same thing when I was kind of approaching my due date. It was like that nesting thing where you're just tying up all these loose ends and you're just full throttle to get things done. You may or may not have realized before when you go out of town, you're like, everything sells when I'm out of town. but it perhaps was because you were in like full blown, get it done mode, tie up loose ends. You go out of town and then all this business is coming through while you're out of town, or when you come back, you have great momentum. It's also another way to avoid burnout, to have an outside of the fishbowl perspective on your business and your life, and kind of like how things are going and what you can do to change things and implement and improve what you're doing versus just staying in the grind and burning out. I think that if you stay in it, like, I can't afford to leave, I'm busy, then you may experience that burnout, and you're only operating at about 60 or 70% capacity. You're not at your highest level of performance. And so it's really important, I think, for us to recharge and rest and to create that wholeness piece, because again, when we're happy on the inside, it's going to spill out into all the other areas of our life. So I highly recommend it. So those are the top 5 levers, I think, that have been such a game changer for me. Again, it's the video, leveraging with people, hiring assistants, your database, number 1, and then your health and wellness, and then your wholeness.